The plasma rifles hummed with deadly energy as Captain Dave Morrison stood perfectly still in the ornate throne room. 6 Alterian elite guards, each standing nearly 8 feet tall with their crystalline armor gleaming under the chamber's ethereal light, had their weapons trained on his chest. Their insectoid faces showed no emotion behind their translucent helmets, but their intent was clear. "You dare enter my domain uninvited, human," Princess Valara spoke from her elevated throne, her voice carrying the melodic yet threatening tone that all Alterians possessed. Her 4 arms gestured gracefully, adorned with jewelry that sparkled like captured starlight. "Your species has violated the Neutral Zone Treaty for the last time." Dave kept his hands visible and open, showing no aggression despite the death sentence hovering inches from his heart. Behind the princess, holographic displays showed the wreckage of 3 Alterian patrol ships, their hulls torn apart by human weapons. The evidence was damning, and he knew it. "Your Highness," Dave began, his voice steady despite the circumstances, "I'm not here to deny the attack. I'm here to explain why it happened." The princess's large, multifaceted eyes narrowed. In the Alterian hierarchy, she was royalty of the highest order, commanding fleets that could devastate entire star systems. Her people viewed humans as primitive, aggressive creatures barely worthy of acknowledgement. The recent destruction of her ships had pushed diplomatic relations past the breaking point. "Explain," she said coldly. "Though I warn you, human, your words will likely determine whether you die quickly or slowly." Dave took a careful breath. Behind him, he could hear the soft shuffling of small feet, but he didn't dare turn around. 3 days ago, your patrol ships intercepted a human transport vessel. The transport was carrying refugees from the Outer Rim colonies, families fleeing the plague outbreak on Kepler Station. "Refugees are not our concern," Princess Valara replied. "They violated our territorial boundaries. The refugees included 47 children, Your Highness. The youngest was only 2 years old." Dave's voice remained level, but something shifted in his posture. "Your ships opened fire without warning. They targeted the transport's life support systems first." One of the guards chittered something in the Alterian language, which Dave recognized as a form of dismissive laughter. The princess raised one of her hands, silencing the soldier. "Children die in war," she said matter-of-factly. "It is the natural order. The strong survive, the weak perish. Your species would do well to learn this lesson." "That's where you're wrong about us," Dave said, and for the first time he smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Humans don't abandon our children. We don't consider them acceptable casualties, and when someone threatens them, we become something your people have never truly understood." The princess leaned forward slightly, her curiosity piqued despite her anger. "And what is that?" "Monsters." The word hung in the air like a challenge. Dave continued, his voice growing stronger. "Captain Lisa Hayes was commanding the escort destroyer when your ships attacked the transport. She watched 47 children suffocate in the void of space. She listened to their final transmissions, their calls for help, their fear." He paused. "So she made a choice. A choice to violate the treaty and attack my ships? A choice to ensure it never happened again." Dave's eyes met the princess's compound gaze. "She rammed her destroyer into your flagship at full burn, took out all 3 of your patrol ships with a crew of 80 humans who volunteered to stay aboard for the suicide run." The throne room fell silent except for the low hum of the guards' weapons. Princess Valara studied the human before her, searching for signs of deception or madness. She found neither. "You speak of this as if it were heroic," she said finally. "Your captain threw away 80 lives for children who were already dead." "No, Your Highness. She threw away 80 lives to send a message to your entire empire." Dave took a step forward, ignoring the guards who tensed at his movement. "Touch our children, and we will make you pay a price you cannot afford." "Foolish sentiment," the princess declared. "Children are resources to be protected when convenient, discarded when not. Your emotional attachment to them is a weakness." That's when she noticed them. Behind Dave, partially hidden in the shadows of the massive doorway, stood 2 small figures. human children, no more than 6 or 7 years old, with wide eyes and dirt-smudged faces. They clutched makeshift toys and wore clothes that had seen better days, clearly refugees from some distant conflict. But what struck Princess Valara wasn't their appearance. It was their positioning. Despite the obvious danger, despite the armed guards and the hostile alien environment, the children had moved to stand directly behind the human adult, not cowering in the corners, not hiding, but placing themselves where they could be shielded by his body. And Dave, even while facing death, had positioned himself to provide that protection. The princess found herself studying the scene with new eyes. In Alterian society, young ones were expected to fend for themselves from an early age. Adults had no obligation to shield them from danger, and children understood their expendability. Yet these human young had instinctively sought protection from their elder, and he had instinctively provided it, even in mortal peril. "Interesting," she murmured, then spoke louder. "Guards, lower your weapons." The elite soldiers hesitated, clearly confused by the order, but obeyed. Dave didn't relax, but he did glance back at the children for the first time since entering the room. "Your people puzzle us, Captain Morrison," Princess Valara said, having gleaned his rank from the military bearing that was impossible to hide. "We have studied your species for decades, trying to understand your motivations. You fight wars over resources, territory, ideology, all logical reasons. But you also fight with desperate ferocity for creatures who contribute nothing to your society's strength." She gestured toward the children with one of her forearms. "These young ones cannot work, cannot fight, cannot produce value for your civilization. Yet here you stand ready to die for them, for your captain died for similar young ones she had never met. It defies all evolutionary logic." Dave turned slightly, keeping both the princess and the children in his peripheral vision. "Maybe that's what makes us human, Your Highness. We don't see children as investments or resources. We see them as the future we're fighting to protect." Princess Valara stood from her throne, her towering figure casting long shadows across the chamber. She walked down the steps slowly, her jewelry chiming softly with each movement. "Your captain's message has been received, Captain," she said finally. "And perhaps it has been understood. These children behind you, they are the refugees from Kepler Station?" "Some of them," Dave confirmed. "The survivors." The princess stopped just out of arm's reach, studying the human with new respect. "You came here knowing you would likely die, bringing children into enemy territory to deliver a message that could have been sent through diplomatic channels." "Diplomatic channels failed those 47 children, Your Highness." "Indeed they did." Princess Valara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried a different tone entirely. "I hereby grant safe passage to all human refugees in this sector. Your children will not be harmed by Alterian forces." Dave blinked in surprise. "Your Highness? Your species has taught us something today, Captain Morrison. Perhaps there is strength in protecting the weak rather than simply discarding them." She looked again at the children who had crept closer to Dave's protective shadow. "We shall have much to discuss about establishing new protocols for refugee situations." As the guards stepped back and holstered their weapons, Dave felt the tension in his shoulders finally release. Behind him, one of the children, a little girl with braided hair, tugged on his jacket. "Are we safe now?" she whispered. Dave knelt down to her level, his voice gentle but certain. "Yes, you're safe now." And for the first time in decades, Princess Valara began to understand what made humanity truly dangerous. Not their weapons or their tactics, but their absolute refusal to abandon their young.